Recently, there have been reports that the Big 12 and the Gonzaga Bulldogs have been in talks to bring the Zags to the Big 12. As Gonzaga does not have a football team, their primary focus would be basketball. With the Zags being based out of Washington State, we thought, what other teams or schools might be good for Big 12 expansion, especially for basketball? In this video, we will go over some teams that are basketball focused that the Big 12 might try to bring in. A couple notes. Earlier this year, the Big 12 has been in contact with 6 Pac-12 schools, namely Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Oregon, Utah, and Washington, in regards to potential expansion. In this video, we will not talk about them as they would be included in football and all other sports. Note number 2, the Big 12 currently has 10 members. In 2023, 4 new members will join: BYU, University of Central Florida, Cincinnati, and Houston as full members. And in 2024, Oklahoma and Texas will leave the Big 12 to join the SEC. So after 2024, there should be 12 Big 12 teams. Note number 3, the Big 12 could poach from the Big East. The Big East is a basketball-focused conference, but there is no football. The Big East includes Butler University out of Indianapolis, UConn out of Connecticut. Their football team, UConn's football team, is independent, so theoretically they could join Big 12 as a football team as well, but in the Big East they're only basketball, or they're basketball focused. Creighton University out of Omaha, Nebraska, DePaul University out of Chicago, Georgetown out of DC, Marquette out of Milwaukee, Providence out of Providence, Rhode Island, St. John's out of Queens, New York, Seton Hall out of New Jersey, Villanova, which is in Pennsylvania, and Xavier, which is in Cincinnati, Ohio. The Big 12 could look at picking up one or many of those teams. All but 2 of those teams are Catholic schools. The 2 schools that aren't Catholic focused are UConn and Butler. Theoretically, they could pick up Butler and UConn probably a little bit easier, but all those schools could fit in the Big 12's plan. And the final note before going on to the other teams rather than the Big East, but additional teams that could potentially fit the Big 12 for basketball-focused teams. The final note is Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark wants to be the best basketball conference in the NCAA, but he also wants to dominate the landscape of men and women's college basketball, which is kind of interesting because if you think about it from a football standpoint, the SEC is probably number 1, Big 10 is probably number 2, and then it slides off from there. So the Big 12 is potentially looking at the second biggest sport, which is basketball, and potentially dominating there, which is really smart of them. All right, let's get into teams that could potentially fit the Big 12. Again, Big East teams, all of them could potentially fit the Big 12 for basketball-focused teams, but we're looking at additional teams on top of the Big East teams. To start, Loyola Chicago. Loyola Chicago is obviously based in Chicago, so it'd give the Big 12 a presence in the Chicago area that it currently doesn't have. They've been a household name ever since 2018 when they made the Final Four. In 2021, they made the Sweet 16 after upsetting number 1 seed Illinois. Next would be VCU, also known as Virginia Commonwealth University, based out of Richmond, Virginia. Again, another state, another area that the Big 12 doesn't currently have access to from a geographic standpoint. It would add to their media reach, which is obviously something they're looking for. VCU has been a household name ever since Shaka Smart led them to their Final Four in the 2010-2011 season, and they've been pretty steady ever since. Next would be Wichita State. Wichita State is in the similar geographic area as the Big 12 is. From a basketball standpoint, they've been pretty dominant over the last few years. They reached the Final Four in 2013 and the Sweet 16 in 2015, the Sweet 16 in 2006, and back in the 80s, in 81 to be exact, they reached the Elite Eight, and in 64 they reached the Elite Eight. With a steady basketball program that it's had, along with the geographic area, it would only make sense for the Big 12 to potentially add them. Next would be Dayton. The Dayton Flyers are based out of Dayton, Ohio. They made the Elite Eight in 2014 and 84. They actually won a national title back in 67, and they have been a pretty good and steady basketball team. With the addition of Cincinnati, the Big 12 would be extending into Ohio already, but with Dayton, they would further extend in Ohio into the East, It would only make sense from a geographic location to continue to add schools in that location to align with Cincinnati and West Virginia. They also have a pretty good fan base, as they have 44 straight sellout games, and all 16 games this year are already sold out. Next would be St. Mary's. St. Mary's Gales are based in Moraga, California, which is just outside of Oakland, outside the Bay Area. With the potential to add Gonzaga, St. Mary's would be a natural fit. Again, if they would add some Pac-12 teams as well, they'd be a natural basketball fit to that as well. They've had recent success over the years, over the last 20 years or so. Same with the Zags, with reaching the Sweet 16 in 2010. St. Mary's is not only a great school in basketball, but again, with them being in a geographic location that the Big 12 currently isn't in, especially in the Bay Area, it should give them access to better sponsors, better media rights, more revenue for the conference. And last but not least is the school that started this conversation, the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Gonzaga has been dominant over the last 20 plus years. Started in 1999 with the Elite 8, 2001 with Sweet 16s, 2016 with the Sweet 16, 2009 with the Sweet 16, 2015 with an Elite 8, 2016 Sweet 16, 2017 they were runner-ups, 2018 Sweet 16, 2019 Elite 8, 2021 runner-up, 2022 Sweet 16, arguably one of the best schools in the nation in that time period. They are based in Washington, which is obviously further away than all the Big 12 schools are currently. But if you add St. Mary's in the mix, you have a travel partner there. BYU's close by that they're adding next year. If you add some Pac-12 schools as well, it kind of diminishes the fact that they're further away. Even if they don't add any additional schools out on the West Coast, you would add a dominant program that everyone would love to see in a big conference. Again, as mentioned before, we're not deep diving into Big East schools. If they were to add a few of the key schools, would probably be UConn, Creighton, Georgetown, and Villanova, all of which have pretty good fan bases, pretty good markets, and have pretty good basketball teams, especially in the current and the past. What do you guys think of these potential expansion targets for the Big 12, especially from a basketball standpoint? Do you think other schools would be good expansion targets from a basketball standpoint and even from a football standpoint for the Big 12? Maybe some other conferences that you think might expand? Let us know in the comments below. Again, thanks for watching.